Governments had an excellent idea when they decided to close down many of the mental hospitals and move their patients out into the community to help them cope with the real world. It was a good idea, but it hasn't worked very well. We're not keeping mental patients in institutions as long, but we have also failed to provide a place out there in the real world for those mental patients to go. 1 in every 8 Canadians will be treated for mental illness. What happens after that treatment is a growing national problem. Every day across Canada, over 500 patients are released from hospital after treatment for mental illness. For some, that step outside is their first in years. For most, it comes after a stay of a month or 2. The next crisis many face is finding a decent and supportive place to live. This at a time when housing is scarce and the ex-patient is struggling to cope with life on the outside. This picnic in Toronto was organized by the Parkdale Recreation Centre, a community drop-in program serving ex-mental patients. Alice Patterson is 26 years old. She left Queen Street Mental Health Centre a year ago and soon found herself out on the streets. So you had no place to go?
No place to go.
Didn't you have any money at all?
No.
Were you on welfare?
Well, I couldn't get on welfare because I didn't have a birth certificate. And they told me, well, I'll get a birth certificate and find a place that I could get on welfare.
How did you survive?
Or off friends, or ask people for money.
Did you ever turn to prostitution?
Yeah, a few times.
Were you frightened?
Yes, I was. I was very frightened.
You didn't want to do that again?
No way. I wouldn't. I'd rather be hungry, and I would never do it again. Never. Well, before that, I was living in abandoned houses, in parks. I felt scared that I was going to get raped, and I did. I've kind of, like, living on the streets, I've learned a lot. Like, I've met a lot of people.
But it sounds like you learned some things that were not necessary to learn, that were very painful.
Yeah, I did.
People need hope to survive. Pat Capone, a former mental patient, is an advocate and program worker for the Parkdale Recreation Centre.
No, I used to think that. No.
You have no hope? No sense of hope?
No, that doesn't seem to be a factor. It's the knowing that it's going to be the same every day. It's for a lot of people very important. But there's not much hope. Maybe a hope that there'll be a full meal that night or something, but not what you and I might consider hope. Not hope I'm going to go get a job or hope I'm going to get out of this. No, that doesn't exist. For a lot of people, it doesn't exist.
On his next birthday, Peter Sebert would have been 33 years old. He was a happy kid. He had lots of friends and good grades in school, and he loved hockey. It wasn't until after high school that he started to have serious problems. He was diagnosed as a schizophrenic, and for the next 12 years, he was in and out of mental hospitals and group homes. His mother told us that what he wanted most in life was a job and an apartment of his own. On August 24th this year, Peter gave up all hope. He threw himself in front of a subway train and died several hours later of multiple injuries. The last boarding house Peter lived in was here in the Parkdale area of Toronto. But Peter had a habit of acting out his aggression by hitting people, and so the other tenants voted him out. Josephine Harrington, his landlady, told him he had to leave. How did you react, Mrs. Harrington, when you found out that Peter Sebert was dead?
Felt pretty down, very down. I really did. I felt very down because you instantly, what comes into your mind, what did I do? I gave him notice to leave, to protect a large number of people, knowing very well he was going to have difficulty in getting the kind of help he needed.
Josephine Harrington doesn't own, but runs 3 boarding houses for 55 ex-mental patients. The rooms are clean and well-maintained because she does care, but she is frustrated by the lack of aftercare once the patient leaves the hospital. She is a staff of one, on call 24 hours a day, yet recognizes that even total dedication cannot meet all the needs of her residents. Peter had lived on the 3rd floor for 3 years.
Peter himself had called us and was very agitated and wanted to come back. And so we had temporized and said, well, Peter, get some help and we will take you back. But we can't take you back when the rest of the immediately when the rest of the tenants feel that that you're dangerous. So you have to prove to us that you're not. And he agreed with that. What happened? I don't know. Apparently he did not have any known suicidal tendencies, so they weren't prepared for that to happen.
You think Peter Sebert was abandoned?
Neglected. Why wasn't it? They've got boarding houses here. They put him in the boarding house. When do they see Peter again? When he's just can't stay in the boarding house because he's behaving badly. Does anybody ask, what happened, Peter? Why are you behaving badly?
When Peter left the boarding house, he came to stay in this downtown hostel, Seton House. It's not unusual for ex-mental patients to come here or to one of the other hostels in Toronto. A survey last April found that 249 ex-mental patients had spent a cold night in a hostel. Hostels have no trained personnel to recognize or to handle psychiatric problems. They were only designed to provide emergency accommodation. They're flop houses. Peter Sebert spent his last night here.
Well, we are a hostel of last resort, keeping in mind what a hostel is intended to do. We're not a nursing home, we're not a rest home, we're not a hospital. We are a hostel, and we can perform that function. This doesn't mean that we can provide the kind of accommodation that everyone in the community may require.
We tend to lose people. We lose people, you see people and you know people, and then they're not there no more. And that didn't even make the papers that way, because that's the Ossington subways, the Queen Street Annex. It's where people go when things get too heavy. Now, one might say, is that the worst thing? Not necessarily. A lot of crazies are going to envy Peter because he's out of it, man. He's out of it. He don't gotta struggle no more. Don't gotta go through the same routine anymore. That's the scary part. So he made that kind of decision. That's one of the consequences of not having supports in the houses, not having the kind of houses where trained staff are available, or just putting people away and say we don't want to pay attention to you, go away. If we hide you away, maybe you won't bother us anymore.
Every 6 months, 7,000 people are discharged from mental institutions in Metro Toronto, many from here, the Queen Street Mental Health Centre. The walk to the street, past the wooden sculptures, is a short one. Within 6 months, 30 to 40% of those who left the hospital will walk it again to be readmitted. The patient's major complaint about life on the outside is a lack of supportive housing.
There's just no question that given the size of the problem, the difficulty in linkages, that what is occurring at present falls short of it. There's just no question.
Sam Malcolmson is the chief psychiatrist of Queen Street Mental Health Centre. He says there is a direct connection between health and housing.
The absence of adequate aftercare, including housing, without any question, influences the length of time that someone is out of hospital and influences their prognosis, how well they do. That's an established fact. And those of us charged with the responsibilities for looking after patients know it, are not happy with the present situation because there's always going to be more to do, and would like to see things better and are planning for things to be better.
Until a coordinated support system for ex-mental patients is in place, tonight will be a night like any other in Toronto. No one has exact figures, but an estimated 500 former mental patients will be homeless. Some will stay in the hostels, others will spend the night in the parks and donut shops.
Evenings and weekends. Those are the most difficult times if you're frightened, lonely, and confused. They can also be the most desperate times if you have no place to go and the people who are paid to help you have all gone home. Well, if you're a former mental patient, You're better off here in Vancouver than you are in Toronto.
One reason is supportive group homes like this. This house is run by the Vancouver Mental Patients Association. MPA's basic philosophy is self-help within a home-like setting. It was started in 1971 by ex-mental patients and now owns 4 houses, a drop-in center, and an apartment building.
Cab driver drives up and says it'll cost you $1 extra.
The house rules are simple. No violence, no alcohol, no non-prescription drugs, and no harassment of others. Claire Brockenshire moved in 2 months ago. 9 people live in the house.
The first time I came here, I was very much impressed. I couldn't believe it because there's such a relaxed atmosphere. I had never seen that before, especially among kids of that age. You know, there was no screaming, yelling, everybody was very happy and quiet. And they were hospitable because I fought my doctor tooth and nail. I did not want to come anywhere near MPA or anything like it because it smelled of restriction, which is not quite my bag. And anyway, I came back and I had coffee and I met Barry and Colin, and they were very nice to me. And I thought they were at that time, I thought they were very, now I know them. They're both rotten. But they were very nice to me, and I never forgot it.
Vanilla extract. Plan on drinking it or using it in your baking this time?
Drinking it.
MPA helps its members to become independent. Each resident takes a turn at cooking, cleaning up, and doing the weekly shopping with no frills.
Well, we can't afford it.
The house runs on a tight budget. After rent and food, each resident has $110 left from their monthly welfare check. That may not sound like much, but it's about 4 times the amount a person in Toronto would have after paying for room and board.
We've only got $241 to spend. Could you keep an eye out for it?
Happy birthday to you.
Ex-mental patients say their hospital experience has left them feeling very dependent. MPA houses create an environment that encourages self-confidence and acceptance.
Birthday to you. Thank you very much.
Mary Bell Campbell is celebrating her 30th birthday. A few years ago, she was too frightened to leave her apartment. 4 months ago, she was selected to run the drop-in center.
Here comes Mary Bell, right down U Street Lane.
The drop-in center is open from 7 in the morning to 11 at night, 7 days a week.
Okay, anybody that wants a meal ticket? I sure do.
Okay. One thing I find about it is it gives me a purpose in life. Like, when I was ill, I didn't have anything to do except watch television or read. Like, when I go to bed at night, I know that the next day I'm going to be working from 1:30 to 7. I have a responsibility. I have a way of filling my day. I feel like I've accomplished something, and I think it's really good for me.
Okay, is that it? Is there anybody else?
I'll tell you something. My social worker told me. I phoned my social worker and told him I had the job, and he told me that 2 years ago he never thought that I would ever function in society again. He thought I was hopeless. But it just goes to show you what a support from people plus a will do for you. But you have to have the will.
The organization that coordinates the will and the support is the Greater Vancouver Mental Health Service. Helga Hicks is Director of Support Services. The program was established in 1973 and has been called one of the finest examples of aftercare on the continent.
We are not only accountable to the Ministry of Health, which funds us, but also to the community whom we are supposed to serve. Not only the patients, but also the people who have contact with the patients benefit from having an identifiable service.
Their system of supportive housing and care kept an estimated 679 ex-patients out of the hospital in 1979. The Coast Foundation also provides supportive housing with its 4 group homes and 4 apartment buildings. This 1-bedroom apartment rents for $200 a month and is 1 unit in a new condominium the Mental Patients Association just built at a cost of $830,000. As successful as their program is, they are still concerned about what the neighbors will think and asked us not to film the exterior of the building. Tim Isaac of MPA.
How do you change the attitude of those people living behind those walls out there?
Well, by doing what we're doing, by showing them that ex-mental patients aren't suitable subject material for a Friday night horror film. They're just regular people who've had some troubles and are getting over it.
Economic tough times are taking a toll on more and more ordinary people. According to Statistics Canada, when the unemployment rate goes up, so does the number of first-time admissions to mental hospitals for psychotic disorders. More of us are breaking down, but attitudes have not changed very much.
Why is it like this? Why has it been like this for so long?
We're not popular. Jerry's kids were not. Like, these guys aren't cute. They don't have freckles and they don't have hunting eyes. Mental illness isn't a fun illness. It's not a popular illness. People don't contribute to it. People tend to shy away from it. People tend to get really violent when they hear that we're around.
They don't want you next door.
They don't want not only next door, they don't want in the same 5-mile radius.
Sometimes not having a decent place to go means patients are kept in hospitals longer than necessary. One study found that 26% of the patients considered ready to leave the Queen Street Mental Hospital were not discharged. The reason? No place to go.
In other words, if we're keeping them in an institution for housing reasons, for accommodation reasons, then that's unsatisfactory.
Larry Grossman, Ontario Minister of Health.
We announced approximately $2 million worth of new programs a couple of months ago. $1 million worth will be spent in Toronto just in housing initiatives. And there's no question in my mind that sadly our communities have not responded either in a sensitive enough way. There are still too many communities who get scared of group homes, for example. And for so many of our ex-psychiatric patients or continuing patients, the group home is the only proper setting, and we don't have enough of them. Now, that is not a financial constraint. I have no problem funding them. I have problem finding them.
Mary Stern is the coordinator of Parkdale Recreation Centre and has been active in the development of support systems for ex-mental patients for many years.
Well, I think that we've seen a really strong shift in the last year and a year and a half. I don't think that you can make up for 11 or 12 years of serious errors in 6 to 9 months. I think that's an impossibility. I think that they have begun to shift so that there is some chance, perhaps, over the next while that we can see some improvement. Part of the difficulty is that things are rather bad and that the socioeconomic conditions in general make it much worse. So that there's a real time problem in how you try to make up for a long period of disaster.
Do you think about the way you would like to live? The kind of place you would like to live? The kind of life you would like to have? Do you think about that?
Yeah, I do.
What kind of life would you like to have?
I would like people to stop calling me crazy. I like to live a normal life without being hassled, by other people. And I'd like to have a 1-bedroom apartment. Have a good boyfriend and have a good job. And just be happy and make my parents proud of me, which that's kind of hard, My mom doesn't live here anymore. And my brother, he's so busy. He doesn't have time for me. Well, I can see his point, too.